before my final rhyme, she will come back home to Wonderland and turn back the hands of time.
The Mad Hatter has become very sick, longing to have his family back. Alice returns to Wonderland, steals the chronosphere from Time himself, and travels to the past to set things right.
The good.
The use of time travel gives our characters, namely Alice, a lot of neat scenarios to play around in, and I thought it was pretty interesting to take a look at those scenarios. This also gives the movie a fair amount of amusing moments throughout the runtime. Mainly a lot of moments where characters are talking to each other in nonsense, and puns. Oh god, the puns. When compared to 2010's live-action Alice in Wonderland directed by Tim Burton, I think I highly prefer the Alice that we see in this movie, the Alice who has grown from that Alice. The story picks up with Alice 3 years after the event of 2010's Alice in Wonderland, and we see an Alice who is a lot more proactive and sure of herself and what she wants to accomplish in life. And in this journey to Wonderland, you have a much clearer idea of why Alice has a connection to the place and the characters who live there, and why she will want to get involved. She has much better motivation in this movie than the one she had in the previous film. And the story constructed around this portrayal of Alice gives her a good story arc to go through that explores some interesting messages and themes.
The iffy.
Given that this is a movie about Wonderland, it feels a little strange that the story would be a little more by the books and expected, as opposed to something more along the lines of strange and unusual. And even though this world is inhabited by strange creatures, and they're given a backdrop of a very strange environment to live in, the performances of the characters feel kind of airy, generic, and sometimes clumsy. And there aren't very many moments of genuine emotion to get behind.
The bad.
Some questionable retcons are made to characters in this movie that not only change what these characters are about, but kind of make you question what their motivations are for not just this movie, but also the preceding movie. The way this movie is structured, it essentially begins and ends in a similar fashion to Alice in Wonderland. There's a problem in the real world, oh, I gotta go to Wonderland and have an adventure. Come back to the real world, resolve the problem. To remind you briefly about the ending of 2010's Alice in Wonderland, it ended with Alice returning to Wonderland, rejecting the proposal of the suitor that was presented to her as someone that she should marry, going off and inheriting her father's company, which involves sailing across the sea and delivering goods and services, trade business. And the beginning of Alice Through the Looking Glass basically picks up with her being in the midst of doing that. And it's really frustrating to see the same crap shoved in Alice's face about how she should conform to society's interest, how she should be a proper lady, and that they are completely ignoring the fact that she has been running this business for 3 years, and they're completely ignoring the reality of what she has accomplished. It's just one of those moments that make me feel like nothing about the status quo was changed at the beginning of this movie, in a place where it very surely should have been changed.
The verdict?
Ultimately, I'm glad I saw this movie for the enjoyable moments that there were, and I will put it to you as simply as I can. If you enjoyed the first live-action movie, I think you'll enjoy this one. If you didn't enjoy the first live-action movie, probably not. This is Detective Steve, and I'm thinking I probably should have gone to see X-Men Apocalypse instead. In fact, I'm going to do that right now.